Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I would like to acknowledge the Alan Hordacre, who's in the audience, and also Tony Pedersen in helping getting this PowerPoint together and thinking about what to say. I do want to add my acknowledgements and respects to the Menang people and say I learned something from Larry's talk, which is the dialectic difference for the local Bandicoot name of Kwenda, which we'll hear a lot about in this talk. So I look forward to learning that name and using it in the future. So many of you will have heard about our citizen science project at Balajup, and this is a 5-year report on how it's going and in particular what mistakes we might have made and challenges that we've had to learn from. Firstly, to say it's been a tremendously supported by a wide range of organisations and individuals, and the organisations are up there. In particular, Lotteries and South Coast NRM and also the state NRM have been important funders, and we've had lots of partnership support as well. Very important and very appreciated. It's a part of Gondwana Link, and the star indicates where Balajup is, so this follows on from Keith's talk, and so it's a very specific project, and it focuses on this wonderful property that the Hordacres have had for 3 generations, largely intact. Primarily, it's still got tremendous amounts of bush and wetlands, and their willingness, the family, to co-partner with this community project. So it's involved covenants on bushland and co-investments of time and energy over a decade now on this particular project. The location is strategically sited between the Walpole Wilderness Area National Parks and the Stirling Ranges, and a key part of the connectivity, the landscape conservation connectivity that we are so keen to promote and develop. A view of some of the vegetation types within the sanctuary, woodland, Wandoo and Jarrah forest woodland, and ideal for the type of fauna monitoring and restoration work that the sanctuary was designed to do. So part of the idea was, are these eco-sanctuaries a useful tool in eco-restoration on the South Coast and in the Great Southern? And they're certainly becoming an important part of major investments of funding for conservation elsewhere in Australia. So this is, in a way, a citizen science-based example, community level, small-scale sanctuary, and this is a report card 5 years to the month from when we first reintroduced Kwenda or bandicoots into the fence sanctuary. So the key part was to tackle the devastating problem that our introduced feral predators have on our fauna, and sanctuaries represent one attempt to get that pressure off sufficient to allow the reintroduction and growth of populations of a wide range of vertebrate fauna. So in building the fence, we certainly looked at the best available information available. One of the mistakes we made was not having sufficiently large fire breaks or having the pruning of the branches of trees that might fall on the fence in the future. So I think we would have aimed for about a 4 metre to 5 metre gap either side of the fence. That's both a fire break. In hindsight, we would have had the tree lopping crews out there for an extra few days lopping branches, and also would have had Al with his front end loader making sure there weren't trees that would fall. So, for example, in the last month, we've had 3 major wind events, storm wind events, and after each one, we have to think of getting out there and checking the fence because of the danger. In the 5 years, we've had 2 security events. One was a branch that fell on the fence, and the second was the wind pushed aside the gate for a week or 2. Luckily, neither of those proved to have allowed foxes or cats to get in. So that was a mistake, and basically for anyone planning this sort of thing, you can't do enough at that foundation level to get get it right at the beginning. With the establishing the sanctuary, again, we had tremendous support from the community. I think we should have worked hard to get a partnership with a tertiary institution from the word go. So although we've had lots of university students involved, it would have helped us, I think, given that this is such a long-term program, to invest in building that connection right from the start. But we did set up our monitoring framework of conservation targets, indicators, data collection, reporting against that and adapting, and lots of reports have come out of it, and lots of new insights and directions. These illustrate some of the activities along the way. That's camera monitoring and setting up a detailed dieback protocol to keep dieback out of both the property and the sanctuary. These are some of the pictures from the camera monitoring that we've had all these years. There's a fox. Can you all spot the fox there? And then there's a cat on the outside of the fence there. We've also, there shows the possums. They were at very low levels on Balajap beforehand, and their numbers have very significantly increased in the sanctuary over these years. And of course, Kwenda, which is, let's spot the Kwenda there, the southern brown bandicoot, Kwenda, I think Larry mentioned, and then rabbits. So when we started, we thought there weren't rabbits in the sanctuary. That was because we didn't detect them walking or driving around. In hindsight, that was a mistake. We should have spent quite a few more months making sure that there were no signs of rabbits. So the fact that they're rabbits now and they've bred up and to a small extent has proved to be a compounding impact of seeing the impacts of bandicoots on soil. So a key question we've been asking, what's the benefit of soil perturbing mammals on the forest ecosystem? Much studied now around Australia. This is a local example, and it's been compounding effect to see that the increased diggings have been caused by both bandicoots and rabbits. We have set up all the vegetation monitoring points both inside and outside the sanctuary. We have got ongoing bird monitoring using standardized survey techniques, and that's working with groups like BirdLife Australia and the Denmark Bird Group. There's 2 of our species that we think are key woodland indicators of restoration. We've had lots of opportunity to liaise with the community. He has Green Army teams helping with fence maintenance, and the real value, I think, has been providing each year perhaps 15 or 20 students, university students, both graduate and undergraduate, chances to get hands-on experience working with wildlife biologists on fauna monitoring and so on. Our university programs don't really have enough hands-on knowledge, and this is one of those community projects where they can learn a lot. However, we haven't got tertiary institutions yet providing students to do year-long or PhD projects which involve the sanctuary. So although it's set up as a long-term experiment, so far we haven't attracted any of the students yet to dedicate an honours or a master's or PhD to sanctuaries, and including ours. We've begun to involve Noongar people and in the sanctuary and its activities, and had a lot of fun with linking teams of young Noongar people and students and land care students with the animals and interactions that we have. An area that's unfolded since we started was appreciating the value of hollows and the opportunities for research on that. We've installed about 26 phascogale nesting boxes, and 14 of them have actually now shown signs of occupation. When we started, we didn't see any brush-tailed phascogales, so that's a sign that you can have very low levels of our wildlife surviving, and it just takes removing the feral predators for them to start bouncing back. So lots of fun with monitoring and checking the boxes. So real focus has been on the Kwenda as part of this broader scale of the importance of bandicoots and other soil perturbing animals on our forest ecosystem health. And yeah, we found that after initial concern over a couple of years when we weren't sure whether that they were actively breeding, that just in the last couple of years we're finding that numbers are far greater than the 16 that we've reintroduced, and also that there are lots of sign of breeding. We also are finding that they're getting through the fence, so our neighbours are finding the very young ones are able to get through. That's prompted us to bring forward 1080 baiting by the Balajup owners to try and get greater protection against predators outside the fence, because these sanctuaries are actually have a type of halo, and in New Zealand they actively encourage us where they are using them to disperse the original animals across the broader landscape. So one of the other challenges we've had is understanding what it would mean to have a tagging, capture-recapture method to get accurate population estimates of how the population's going. And we've gone now for a relative one, the same trap effort each year rather than an absolute one, because it would take far more resources than we've had. But from monitoring each year, we find that phascogales, possums and bandicoots are all thriving and doing well, and we're reaching a point where we think that they'll start to benefit the surrounding bushland as well. Just acknowledging the 1080 baiting that Alan Hordacre, as landowners, starting to do over the whole property. We've reintroduced calicivirus, and that's already reduced rabbit population numbers inside the sanctuary and the broader Balajup landscape. A key other mistake we made was allowing 4 kangaroos to stay within the fence when we started. A lot of them had been moved out or eradicated, but in fact that's proved to be a real problem. Their numbers have grown up to 17 currently, and for various reasons, including damage to the fence, it would have been much better to have removed them at the beginning. Again, one of those early mistakes that has proved now challenging to try and think of how to deal with. So in terms of challenges, protecting the fence from trees falling and fire. We've had the rabbits, kangaroos, partnerships with tertiary institutions, the need to develop that. In the future, how we might get permission from the state government to add more species. It would certainly be a real wish of mine to introduce species like woylie, some breeding pairs of that into the sanctuary. And then also the long-term resourcing. And I think that means heading towards, say, a Friends of the Balajup Eco Sanctuary, where Greenskills can pass on the ownership and direction of this particular project to a group. But there's exciting new opportunities to look at species like Mardo and whether they will occupy nesting boxes, and the whole critical role of hollows and their relationship to fire and feral bees and so on. So it's an ongoing project. It's 5 years on, and looking to the next 5 years as well. And really it depends on the people involved and also the partnerships that we can form that will allow the ongoing value of this project to be fully realized. I wanted to flag that citizen science is actually a part of a lot of Greenskills and indeed Gondwanalink's work, but often on a much shorter timescale. So what this slide shows is a snapshot eco survey where a group of 5 of us, and that includes, in this case, Angela Sanders as an experienced ecologist, another ecologist and some local landholders, doing snapshot surveys of local farms, and we've done now 5 or 6 around some of the bush heritage reserves near Boxwood Hill, coming up with plans for strategic investment. And just on Glendale Farm, in 3 years, there's been significant re-veg, fencing and bushland protection as a result of these very short-term citizen science surveys. So there we are, trying to learn from the challenges of this citizen science project. Thank you.